Hey, turn the light on, because I've got no one to show me the way. What's up, party people, and welcome back to another episode of nycfoodways, your weekly food and culture discussion from the cultural capital of the world. My name is John, and this week's episode is dedicated to the life and legacy of New York City psychotherapist Paul Pavel, the embodiment of outward flow of positivity. Where does good art come from? Is all pain shared? What does it mean to take on the pain of another? Who owns our pain once we are willing to share it with the world? These questions and many others are examined in Brady Corbett's 2018 masterpiece, Vox Lux. This movie is extraordinary because, like Wu's Wonton King, it manages to do so many things all at once and at a very high level. On paper, it is a story about a girl who suffers trauma at a young age and ends up an international pop star. On screen, it is far, far more complex. It is a grimly naked look at the way we choose to exploit ourselves and others. It is a sickening study of the corrosive effects of fame on both the famous and their adoring public. It is a meditation on turn of the 21st century violence. It is a brutally honest snapshot of sibling love and sibling rivalry. It is a clear-eyed account of the only one can win nature of our economic system. It is a chilling study of the recent and contemporary media environment. It is a creepy look at how children can be used as the fissile core of the Hollywood reactor. It has a great soundtrack sung by the lead actresses themselves, and it's set in New York City. Naturally, the movie polarized both audiences and critics alike upon release. I enjoy going to movies knowing as little of their plot as possible, ideally with naught but a simple recommendation from a friend or critic whose opinion I respect. With that in mind, I'm going to break with film reviewing convention here, sorry Leonard Maltin, and avoid any real discussion of the plot. Okay, fine. I'll share with you the Hulu synopsis of the movie. An unusual set of circumstances bring unexpected success to a pop star. I'm down to leave it at that, but understand that this synopsis is as anodyne a description of Vox Lux as one describing Taxi Driver as a working-class New Yorker meets an eclectic group of local characters on his hunt for inner peace. When Ola Dargis included Vox Lux on her also-ran honor roll list a few years ago, describing it as sick, but in a good way, which was more than enough to convince me to see it my first time around. I saw it in a theater downtown, and for weeks, no, months after, it was all I could talk about. As you might be able to tell from the video you are currently watching, I still can't stop talking about it. Rewatching this movie gave me the chills, as I actually felt the hair on my arm stand up as the opening credits rolled. One could say that Vox Lux sports a relatively simple narrative, one that is almost beside the point, as any small collection of words describing an incredibly complicated piece of art is guaranteed to denature that complexity, and this is why I believe film reviews should convince the reader to see the movie, or not provide a Cliff's Notes study guide, BuzzFeed-style explainer text. But that's just me. So where does good art come from? There's a classic New Yorker cartoon from 2003 with a caption that reads, "Dear Mom and Dad, thanks for the happy childhood. You've destroyed any chance I had at becoming a writer." Vox Lux is very much about the transmutation of trauma into art and how art is often downstream from pain. How much has been written of war, love, growing up, and other traumatic events? One of Vox Lux's characters' literal nightmares becomes a piece of her cultural output, her pain a product to be consumed and shared by her fans. Vox Lux is about the sacred and the profane, the sacral nature of personal trauma and the resultant profanity when that personal trauma becomes monetized for mass consumption. This is also known as the culture industry, and it is one of the major influences on those of us that live in the sphere of the dominant global culture. Vox Lux depicts, in convincing fashion, the seriously messed up interpersonal relationships that can occur between close family members, and the extraordinarily famous, in Vox Lux's telling, are as petty and neurotic as any other family, only more so. Can you imagine the internal repercussions of a beautiful mother telling her beautiful daughter that the girl looks tired, then a few minutes later telling the same girl that she looks beautiful today? Can you imagine the internal repercussions of one extraordinarily famous sibling calling the other extraordinarily not famous one an ungrateful fucking retard? Vox Lux is alternately creepy, terrifying, captivating, unsettling, tragic, surreal, energizing, and shocking. One of the many shocking aspects of this film is that its director was only 30 years old upon its release. Brady Corbett got his start as a child actor, and whatever hells he saw, endured, or heard of are plainly expressed in Vox Lux's exposure of the effects of Hollywood fame at a young age. The movie stars Natalie Portman, who, 24 years before Vox Lux, gave one of the most impressive cinematic debuts of all time as the 12-year-old Matilda in Luc Besson's Leon the Professional, and Raffi Cassidy, just a kid herself. Corbett's unsparing treatment of the icky intersection of fame and youth feels incredibly personal. He's clearly writing what he knows, and the film is so much better for it. Vox Lux has a fantastic soundtrack which is evenly split between legitimately good pop music written by Sia and unsettling orchestral and electronic music by famed composer Scott Walker. It is of note that an album made for a fictional pop star is astronomically better than all of the overproduced, vulgar corn syrup we are subjected to daily on the radio. Vox Lux gives formal nods to David Lynch, Stanley Kubrick, and is dedicated in memoriam to Jonathan Demme, who died not long before it was released. The movie's initial framing sequence, that which sets the stage for the rest of the film, is as searing as a cattle brand. You will not forget this movie. It also should be noted that Vox Lux passes the Bechdel Test with flying colors. And there's no real way to contextualize this next bit without discussing plot, but I have to mention it. Natalie Portman is in such great shape here that she manages to walk on the beach in spike heels. Your favorite musician could never. Vox Lux is a triumph of trauma, and the film as I see it is fundamentally about the relationship between pain, fame, art, growth, and love, and how all of these intersect and commingle to produce and refine each other. In this reviewer's estimation, Vox Lux was the best film of 2018 and one of the finest American movies of the past decade. So teach me, show me all you've got, and in your words, I will be wrapped up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for another episode of NYC Foodways. Peace.